repair. I'd like to let you know that we will be recording this meeting and posting it on CASA's YouTube channel at a later date. I'd like to welcome all of our participants. Just a couple housekeeping things before we get started. You'll notice that you've been muted and with the video off. If you have questions during our forum, please put them in the chat and our presenters will get to them as they come in. I'd also like to take a minute just to introduce our folks today that will be talking to you about this great topic. Our moderator is Lori Brookhouse, the owner and operator of Vital Insights Safety and HR Consulting. Lori has 16 years of experience in the field of OH&S in various industries that include agriculture, construction, and the not-for-profit sectors. We've worked with Lori in the past, and she's a fantastic person and has great insight into many things. So we'd like to welcome Lori, and she's out of Nova Scotia today. Also joining us is Howard Maines with the Canadian Public Policy Advisor for the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, AEM. And Howard has some 4 decades of combined public service, business, and farming experiences. He has built a public affairs firm that counts its clients as a number of well-regarded agricultural companies and groups, including AEM. Also joining us is Dion McGrath with the Agriculture Producers Association of Saskatchewan, who currently serves as the executive director. The organization is located in Regina and is dedicated to agricultural policy, development, and advocacy, focused on creating success for Saskatchewan farm, ranch, and families. And Carl Klotzbach with LH2K Technology, he's the principal owner and is a private practice in southern Wisconsin, specializing in proactive product safety practices and regulatory compliance requirements. He's worked in the agricultural machinery design and manufacturing industry for over 40 years. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to let Lori take it away. So welcome and thank you to everybody for joining us today.
Thank you, Robin, for that really warm introduction and detailed introduction. That is fantastic. So today we have a few questions for our panel members to kind of give us more information on the right to repair, very important piece of legislation that was passed last October that we need some more information about. And these 3 will give us that information with their vast industry knowledge and experience. So we're going to try to keep it really casual. We do have a list of questions that we're going to present, but if you have nagging questions or questions that you really want to pose to us, we'll prioritize those questions first, and then we'll pop in when we can with our questions. So feel free at any point in time, add your questions in the chat. Robin in the background is going to help me monitor those, but we'll get those out as soon as we see them. So the first question I have, we can start with Howard and then move on with Dion and then Carl, is from your industry perspective, what is your interpretation of the right to repair?
Well, that's a great question to start this conversation off, and thank you for asking the Association of Equipment Manufacturers to participate in it. First thing is that I want to say is that the manufacturers of farm equipment, whether they are smaller short line firms that are based in Saskatchewan or the larger firms that have operations throughout Canada and North America and elsewhere, they support the concept of the whole notion of farmers being able to repair their equipment. And if you go to their websites, many of them have information and tools and technical manuals on their websites for farmers in their quest to self-repair. They have mobile phone apps. They have videos that are available. There are default fault code databases, as well as access to specialized tools and diagnostic equipment. So the access to this information and tools allows the farmers to diagnose, repair, and calibrate their equipment. And the challenge, of course, is like anything, it's education and training. And one of the things to keep in mind that certainly appreciate that as we are finishing up planting season is being able to get that those repairs done quickly. But to help understand the challenge that the whole industry faces, at any time there's a need for 3,000 agricultural equipment technicians. And so if there's anyone that's interested in becoming an ag tech, there's no shortage of work out there to help farmers keep their equipment up and running.
Dion? You're muted, Dion, sorry. There it goes.
Am I unmuted now?
You are. I can hear you loud and clear. It's excellent. Thank you.
I want to start by echoing Howard's opening comments and thank CASA for hosting. It's a very important topic. And I want to be brief. The right to repair for us is about fairness, sustainability, empowerment, and safety for our organization and our members across the province. But we believe it's important for anyone doing repairs to have the knowledge and the freedom to do so independently. It's about really giving farmers and consumers the freedom to decide how they want to do their repairs and by whom. It's about safety. It's about the necessary tools and the information from those manufacturers to do those safely and timely. We support the idea of innovation, safety, and a competitive repair market. And we believe all of these things can coexist and align the interests and the responsibilities across the agricultural community. The whole concept of leveling out the playing field at a time when technology is a big part of farming today, as farm equipment gets more complex and the needs for repairs and specific tools and software, the right to repair really pushes for more transparency and access to the tools, to the information, so that farmers and others can make the necessary repairs safely and properly. But I do want to point out that it is important to note that the right to repair isn't about ignoring intellectual property rights or encouraging unsafe repair methods. So it's really about balancing the advancements in farm machinery today for the benefit of the industry without undercutting farmers' independence and efficiency. And I want to add one final point, that the right to repair extends beyond agricultural equipment, and in fact, it impacts other industries like consumer electronics, medical equipment, home appliances, heavy equipment, and construction machinery and office equipment. And the issues in all of these sectors are really the same. It's accessing the right software and diagnostic tools, the information, and accessing OEM parts. So I'm going to stop there, but thank you again for CASA for this important topic today.
Thanks, Dion. Carl, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, well, thanks again for CASA coming up with this topic and asking me to contribute. Appreciate it. And really don't have a whole lot more to offer than what Howard and Dion have given you. But yes, the background is where this really started was mostly in the electronics industry. I would kind of add too that my experience in the industry is that manufacturers aren't against wholesale actions for self-repair, but then that extends to it's also possible to go to a third-party diagnosis and repair. So, it's all accessible to a limit. And I kind of, when I'm confronted with the question, I kind of base it on three pillars. One is operator and bystander safety cannot be compromised. Protection of the environment, and specifically chip tuning, which I think a lot of people are familiar with, is off the table. and having some patents generated by myself, I do have a high respect for intellectual property. So training and diagnostic procedures come into play. There may be a need for special tools or equipment to do the diagnostics and repair. And then ultimately, who owns the responsibility for that diagnosis and repair and the warranty of the machine should something not pan out the way it was anticipated. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Carl. That's an excellent introduction to our first question, with just the interpretation of what it really means to have the right to repair. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each of your comments by following up with our next question is, what does it mean for those who want to repair their own equipment? Dion, let's start with you this time.
Oh, well, for my members who are farmers across Saskatchewan, it's really about upholding consumer rights with a competitive market that's has education and training components, that's prioritizing safety, and is based on the whole concept of forward innovation in farming equipment. But the key point here is that folks who want to repair their own stuff really need to have the right tools, the right information, the means to access original manufacturing parts, the repair manuals, the right equipment, and the proper guidelines to do all of that stuff. Having access to the information is absolutely essential to making sure that the machinery is kept safe, in working order, and that any repairs that are made are at the same high standards as the manufacturer set out. On the notion of competition, the right to repair for farmers is really about making sure that they maintain their choice and keep a active repair market available to them, so that they're not just stuck with one repair provider. Diversity creates a marketplace that'll benefit everyone. The education and training, we do believe that the manufacturers have a huge role to play in helping create an education and training environment, so that whether it's farmers or independent technicians have the knowledge in order to reduce the risks associated with the repairs, and to make sure that all the repairs are going to meet or exceed manufacturer specifications and warranties, because the financial risk to any farmer on doing modifications to their equipment, there's a huge financial risk in resale of any farm machinery that is modified going forward. Safety, however, is primary, and the principles of directly tying safety directly to the repairability of farm equipment is key for my members, and we believe that the cooperation of manufacturers in providing a safe environment for the repair of their equipment is absolutely essential. And we want to enhance the safety by providing all of the access to all of the information that a farmer or an independent technician would need to do that. And in terms of the innovation, as farm equipment becomes more complex and technology driven, the right to repair really challenges the whole idea that new innovation should not be making repairs harder or more inaccessible to the owners of the equipment. So the focus is on balancing the innovation with repairability is absolutely crucial, and it ensures that new tech advancements don't compromise safety standards. So at the end of the day, we're advocating for a conscientious, safety-focused system surrounding all of the equipment repairs, and we believe that this approach reflects the intricate tech and possible risks associated with modern ag equipment, while empowering those who use it and maintain it to operate it and repair it with confidence and care.
Excellent, Dion. You make some really good points there. And one in particular is, where can farmers learn more? So I want to take my next question right to Howard and ask you, where can farmers learn more so that, according to Dion's excellent explanation, how can they do their own repairs with the knowledge and skills and training that they need, and also still fall within the safety parameters that they should follow?
Well, that's a great question. I think John has mentioned something that's critically important here, and that's on the innovation side of how equipment is being designed today. Back in the day when I used to farm, a tractor had a fuel gauge, an oil pressure gauge, a temperature gauge, and an altimeter to there were the 4 gauges. That's all that was on your dashboard. And nowadays, of course, the modern equipment has a fairly large computer screen, and it's has many pages of readouts of various performance metrics. And in a typical tractor that's a larger horsepower tractor, I'm not talking about the 40 or 50 horsepower tractor, but let's just say a 200 horsepower tractors. There are upwards of 25 different digital sensors that are fed into the onboard computers, and there's anywhere between 2 to 3 million lines of code, and those lines of code control everything from the RPM of the back in the day when tractors used to have governors. Now it's all electronic, so the speed of the engine is controlled by digital code. And thus the speed of the equipment is controlled that way. And so it's an entirely different piece of equipment today versus what some of us grew up with. And so with that, it is a challenge undoubtedly for anyone to diagnose and see what is going on with their equipment and to calibrate as need be. But all the major manufacturers all have fairly comprehensive web pages where information is available. Most of the major manufacturers have apps on there that you can download onto your phone, so that when a fault code pops up, you can quickly see what that might be, whether it's a filter system that's not what it should be, or some other element. But along with that technology improvement and all the digitalization of the equipment, there has been an incredible amount of information that is available to farmers to ensure that they are able to operate their equipment safely. And again, it comes back to just having enough technicians in the field, as well as those farmer owners who want to do more in terms of repairing equipment, having that knowledge and training there. I'll just conclude by saying it's frustrating for equipment manufacturers, dealers, and farmers alike when we hear, for example, in Ontario, a college in Peterborough has decided that it's going to close down its heavy equipment mechanics course, just at a time when we need more heavy equipment off-road mechanics. We have a local college that's going to shut down its training program for the very people that we need. So if there's one thing that people on this webinar can do, is to reach out to that college in Peterborough and ask that program be reinstated.
Thank you, Howard. You spoke of technology, and of course, even in our own vehicles, agriculture has followed suit with absolutely including technology, trying to make our lives a little bit easier, but yet with the repair process a lot more complicated. Carl, I want to throw it to you because you mentioned patents and your experience with technology, and in your career so far. So I'm just kind of wondering what considerations need to be made for warranties. Like, what happens to a warranty if a farmer is doing their own repairs? What if that repair is done incorrectly?
And let me just open that one up a little bit about the repair. Is part of my early career was being a service technician for Massey Ferguson. I had a territory from eastern Montana across northern North Dakota into northwest Minnesota, and then later on at the Massey Training Center down in Des Moines, Iowa. But a lot of the work that I was, doing hands-on, and then later on preparing manuals for diagnosis and repair and all that, and operator's manual. There's a caveat in every major manufacturer's sales information and any repair and diagnostic materials, is that it requires certain amount of training. You don't, now we have access to YouTube and other means of getting some information. But when I was going kind of back to my opening remark there, when I was traveling that territory in the northern tier of the US, part of what I was charged to do was encourage dealer service personnel to attend our training schools, and we'd go in depth into maybe, for example, taking a transmission apart and inspecting it and putting it back together and following those procedures. And so when you ask about the warranty of it, that the caveats that the manufacturers put in their literature is that you're it's in the customer's best interest to if it's something that's more complex, take it to your dealer, use genuine parts that the manufacturer supports. Having done some design work, I worked with a lot of suppliers, and if you just go to the co-op and get your own parts there, or whatever source it is, especially electronics now, do you know that the part you're obtaining meets the specifications that the manufacturer originally intended? There's a lot of knockoffs and parts available off on the internet that certainly price is an important consideration, but are you actually getting the right part? Is it going to perform? And so I think the manufacturers have to protect themselves with that statement in there. But you balance that with, and I've been on that end of it too, because I'm a shareholder in a farming operation. Nothing is so costly as a down machine, because the cost of repair certainly is in the front of you. But what's the value of the crop that you're trying to get in? You're fighting against the weather and eventually trying to take that crop off to beat the weather. So all of that kind of plays all together. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Carl. Excellent information, very important information as well, especially when we consider costs. And we're going to talk about costs in a little bit. But first, I kind of want to stay within who can repair, the training and the experience and knowledge, and kind of look at what are the characteristics that you see that a farmer would have to have so they would be deemed competent in repairing their own equipment. Dion, I'm going to throw it to you, and then Howard and Carl.
Oh, geez. That's a loaded question. I think from a very high level, any individual who's going to undertake some of these repairs on some of these very computer-focused farm implements that we have nowadays needs to be knowledgeable. They need to be skilled. They need to be informed. They need to be resourceful. They need to be safety conscious, compliant with warranty, and understand the warranty terms. diligent record keepers. There's a whole host of characteristics that you put them together. They're well trained and competent to do, and because these are not, as Howard alluded to earlier, they're not like the machines most of us that are on the panel of this webinar would have grown up with. And if I'm not competent to repair my own computer at home, I'm absolutely probably not competent enough to repair the computer in my tractor or combine either. So, but that's my response to what types of characteristics that our organization would view someone would need to have, whether they're a farmer or an independent technician or a factory technician that's working and repairing in this space.
Thank you, Dion. That and your response also ties into Howard's comment 2 questions ago in regards to the school closing in Ontario. Like, we need these maybe even for our farmers who want to get the experience in that perspective. New farmers starting out, maybe they go to equipment training first and then start their own operation. Howard, what are your comments?
Well, one thing to keep in mind, I'll just throw out as one of my kids would say, a fun fact. The dealers of equipment, the mainline, I'm speaking about the mainline dealers, but approximately about 2/3 of the parts that get moved through a dealership actually go out to either independent repair technicians or to farmers themselves, and the remaining 1/3 of the parts that a dealer uses in-house, over half of those parts are used to refurbish equipment that they've brought in on trade. So the majority of parts, and we're talking about parts here, the majority of parts are being put on equipment outside of the dealer's workshop. The other thing to keep in mind, and so that's when I say parts, that's good old-fashioned mechanical parts. And the other thing to keep in mind is this. I brought this up just in passing earlier about the default or the codes that get thrown off by equipment when something's not working. And oftentimes when a code gets thrown out, so it's whether farmer is using an app that's on their mobile phone, or it's getting put out on the computer screen. Very often, when those codes are thrown out, it's something that can be fixed, I'll say, reasonably easy. Where the frustration comes, and everybody can appreciate this, is where the frustration comes is that there's a code that gets thrown off, or something has happened with the equipment where the equipment down powers, and the technician comes in, and that technician is able to reset the system and get things up and running in a relatively quick order. Meanwhile, the plant is the crop is either not getting planted or not getting harvested, and everybody can appreciate the frustration that's associated with that. So the old days, you used to get your hands dirty and be able to fix the equipment, whatever the particular broken part was, and that still, most of the repairs that are happening are still that type of repair. It's just the frustrating part, and everybody feels this frustration about where there's a software element comes into play, the equipment down powers, and it's this feeling of helplessness. So we experience that whether it's on our mobile phones, our laptop computers, or unfortunately in the cab of the tractor or combine when we're trying to get the crop planted or harvested. So it's no doubt that's a frustrating experience for all.
Thanks, Howard. Carl, what kind of characteristics do you think the farmers or those who are doing these repairs kind of need to be able to go ahead and be competent in this particular task?
Well, the farmer, first and foremost, is generally a fairly independent person, has to have a lot of self-confidence because you're pretty much out on your own, and you probably wouldn't go into the business without having that kind of confidence in the first place. But can you repeat the questions? I think I'm
Absolutely,
starting to stretch.
absolutely. There's
Yeah.
so many thoughts going through our heads.
Yeah.
On this
Yeah,
particular
exactly.
topic, and there's so many things to talk about. Just kind of looking for some characteristics. Like, who would you say that would be most competent? What are the characteristics of that person to be able to conduct their own repairs on farm?
Yeah, well, and I'll put a plug into, a farmer that admits that he doesn't have all the knowledge, and maybe has gone on to maybe some technical training, or is very proficient on self-training and all that. But I think that has to be balanced by knowing when, hey, this may be above my skill level, and be willing to go out and seek help with it.
So, Carl, I want you to expand on that comment and tell me, in what situation would it be ideal to hire a professional?
Boy, I don't know what's ideal. That's a difficult one, but it's just recognizing, first and foremost, hey, the machine's down, and I think that theme has been covered pretty well about the cost of the lost opportunity to get the crop in the ground or get it out, and certainly, from go back 40 plus years when I got into the industry. And yeah, it was the kind of the joke was you used baling wire and you just kind of limped along, and maybe you were able to modify that. And I think Howard aptly point that out, is, that was a lot of the mechanical stuff. But now with the electronics, that one's brought in a whole new realm of challenges for us. Most people that have some sort of means of transportation off the farm, an automobile, if there's a fault code or something's acting up, you can go into most parts stores, and they'll plug in, and then they can give you a diagnostic code and maybe make some recommendation on parts that you may need, or some method to get it running again. But a lot of it boils down to education and understanding where the limitations may be in knowing how to approach the diagnostics and repair, and then knowing and accepting when maybe it's appropriate to get somebody with some more skill and training.
Thanks, Carl. Howard, what are some of your thoughts? What have you experienced so far when it might be a good idea for somebody to call in that professional help? What type of situations have you come across that this would be a good idea?
Well, it's been a year since I've been in the cab of a modern tractor. Unfortunately, everything worked, including the GPS system. But all I'll say is that as everybody that's operated any of this modern equipment, it is just astonishing the level of digital control systems that are now at play in that modern equipment, and how you can control things through the computer screen that you never would have ever thought of in the past. So, for example, on a corn planter, where you're able to adjust the rate of seed, and that's actually done dynamically now, based on the ability of a parcel of land being able to hit the yield potential. But I just don't know how if there's a certain benchmark where you call the 1-800-HELP-ME line, where that is.
Right. Your comment, and Dion, I'm going to get to you in just a second here. Just in the chat, we have a little bit of a comment, kind of almost similar or a question that's similar to what you're saying here. And it says a closely associated topic to the right to repair would be inoperability. Farmers will sometimes mix and match different brands and tools for the best practice, or for the best price or the most efficiency, but doesn't always work out with the different brands. Wondering if the panelists have any thoughts on this topic. Thinking of C-94 by MP Jeremy Patzer, which has passed the House and is currently at committee in the Senate. This bill would allow circumventing digital locks in the interest of inoperability. What would be the safety concerns there?
I'll tackle that one because
sounds good, Carl.
this one deals a lot with standardization, and I sit on the Canadian Mirror Committee for TC23, which is agricultural machinery, and a number of the subcommittees. But one very highly active committee is SC19, Ag Electronics. And there's a series of standards. I can put it in the chat. The ISO 11783. There's like 14 or 15 parts. I don't have that right off the top of my head, but it deals with communication of a base vehicle and an attachment or a towed vehicle, and certainly. For practical reasons and economic reasons, for whatever reason it is, most people that are involved with a manufacturer, you'd like to see the same color of a tractor as the same color of the implement, but that in reality that's not there. So if the and most of the major manufacturers are following the ISOBUS protocols for 11783 and various parts. So interoperability is a common concern amongst manufacturers. Now, but I think you'll find that the major manufacturers would also draw the line at when you circumvent or defeat a safety feature on it. They're going to draw the line on that too. So, it's I understand what the concern is that this bill that has been proposed, but that's again, I think that's beyond scope for the manufacturers to allow that to happen. I think it'll get a lot of resistance.
Thank you, Carl. Circling back to you, Dion, I just wanted to kind of see if you have any comments or situations you would like to talk about in regards to somebody not fixing their own equipment, but hiring a professional to do that.
Yeah, I'll just add this. Timing is very important for a farmer. So the timing of when the repair is necessary actually factors into a whole bunch of safety issues that may or may not result from that timing. So a repair that happens to your combines at harvest, clearly there's a huge sense of urgency and anxiety that goes along with getting that repair and that piece of equipment back up and running, and ensuring that there's a diverse market to get that repair done. It helps reduce any anxieties and shorten the timing of getting that repair done, versus a code going off in the dead of winter. While the urgency for a farmer is quite a bit different at that particular juncture, and they will make different choices that work for them. So it's for us, timing matters, because the sense of urgency, the economic necessity, and livelihoods are at stake, and the right to repair helps encourage a diverse repair market to get these things done quickly, affordably, and in a means that works for any particular producer at that particular time. And that's critically important.
Thank you, Dion. So with that though, at the same time, what is the difference between the right to repair and doing a modification? Howard, I'm going to start with you on that one.
Well, there's a right to repair is something that the manufacturers certainly support. It's right to modification that is not acceptable. So the modification might be, for example, as I think Carl mentioned before, is chipping what's called chipping a tractor to increase the number of rated horsepower. That's simply not fair for anyone when especially if that tractor is traded in and it's been chipped to have a 20% increase in horsepower, and the next buyer of that tractor comes along and they're not aware that the tractor had been chipped. About 33% of the equipment that comes in on trade now has had either been chipped or has had delete kits, delete systems installed to disable the diesel emission fluid requirements of the engines, and those are modifications to the operating system, and that's not a repair. That's a modification to the operating system, and those are the sorts of things that don't result in good things for anybody. If I could just I'll just make one final observation about the question that's in the chat and what Carl was mentioning. I'll make one observation in that the manufacturers of the mainline and short line manufacturers all get together every year, twice a year, 2 times a year, in what's called a plug fest, and that's a term that's taken from the computer industry. And when you in the computer industry, when you plug your printer into your laptop, doesn't matter what the 2 brands might be. They could be the same, they could be different, but you're assured that they're actually going to communicate with each other. Twice a year, the engineers from the manufacturing companies that manufacture both combine headers like MacDon out in Winnipeg, and the major mainline manufacturers that manufacture the combines, they get together and they have what's called a plug fest to ensure that the equipment actually talks to each other.
Excellent. So looking at these modifications, Carl, what are your thoughts? Like Howard mentioned the chipping. What are some of the consequences of this? Like Howard mentioned, it goes back to the dealer and somebody else buys it and doesn't realize what's happening. So that could change a lot of different safety parameters around there. So Carl, I want to start with you in the sense of what are those consequences to doing those modifications, and then follow up with Dion.
Sure. And the chipping, a lot of that can be traced back to the different emission stages of engines, going from stage 2 to 3 to 4, and now moving towards stage 5 engine emissions, and the introduction of DEF or AdBlue, whatever you want to refer to it as an addition to the diesel fuel. So that there's another cost in there, but engine manufacturers, whether they're in-house or if they're sourced by an OEM, having to meet government regulations for engine emissions. So, the manufacturer can't produce something that's going to harm the environment. But the other aspect of is somebody defeats that system, actually around the time of stage 4, if you were to defeat the stage 4 engine emissions, trying to work around having to add DEF, because if the DEF runs low, of course, then you get detuning of performance, and that's built into it. But your fuel consumption goes way up too. It's a delicate balance there. So actually, the experiences, and then there's documentation to validate this, is that the addition of DEF in there and trying to defeat that, you're only shooting yourself in the foot by doing that. The other part of chipping too is trying to get enhanced performance, so getting more power out of that engine. And again, having experience in design, you're understanding, when you first sit down at the computer screen, you're working on a product, you have to know what power requirements for the transmission of that power is, and then you know what you're given for engine power for the input. And then back in the 70s especially, a lot of farmers were, so to speak, turning up the wick on their fuel injection pump, trying to get more power, which understandably, you're trying to get more productivity out of it, trying to get the job done quicker and all that sort of thing. Excuse me. The flip side to that is you're putting more input power to those drives. So those drives actually are, susceptible to earlier failure and maybe more catastrophic failure, because they're not designed to handle that kind of power. So, okay, you get the outcome of that is more broken parts and sooner, and maybe it creates an unsafe situation by that. So it's all a very delicate balance in the design.
Thank you, Carl. Dion, comments?
Oh, I'll start off by saying our organization is an advocate for the right to repair. We're not an advocate for the right to modify. I just want to be crystal clear on that. And Howard and Carl articulated the risks associated with modifications of the equipment. I guess what I would focus on is there's some inherent risks for any farmer or any consumer that wants to modify anything that they're purchasing from the original state that the manufacturer has set it up. And for a farmer of some of their farm equipment, the inherent risk clearly is an aftermarket risk and a loss of resale value on that risk. But I would shift it to the whole notion of education and information, and making sure that the purchasers of these pieces of these high value pieces of equipment fully understand and appreciate those risks when they take ownership of the equipment. At the same time, I would assume, and this is simply a guess, and I will defer to Howard or Carl for further comment, that dealerships and manufacturers have ways and means before they take a trade-in from a producer to ensure that it hasn't been modified in some sort of way before they complete that deal. I don't know if they do or not. If they don't, maybe it's an avenue to help increase the awareness from the consumer's perspective, that if they choose to go down this modification road, that they're going to bear the economic risks associated with that, which might be a natural dissuasion from wanting to go down it in the first place. But I just want to add those comments. And if Howard or Carl can enhance or tell me that I'm completely off base, that there's ways and means to help mitigate as best we can some of those modification risks that, from a dealer perspective, we don't want that either, right? Because there's another farmer that's going to purchase that and have to deal with it, and that's not the environment that we want to create either.
Yeah, and I'll build on that too. And again, coming from some design background through my experience, some of the best ideas for farm machinery innovation improvements have come from the farmers. So I am certainly not saying that just because you go to a university and you have an engineering degree, that makes you the ultimate expert in it. A lot of good ideas, but it then becomes this whole ownership thing is once you've taken delivery of that machine, you paid for it and it comes onto the farm. uh, yeah, it's yours to do with what you see fit, and if you can make the thing perform better, I'm not going to say you can't do that. Um, I'm not me personally saying that you're prohibited from doing that, but keep in mind that the company that designed and manufactured, distributed that machine has a responsibility to make sure that that machine comes to you, that it is going to be productive, that it is going to perform, and it is safe to operate ultimately. So, but again, it's caveat emptor, the buyer beware. If you wish to go down that path of modifying it, basically own it, and that's how the law reads in Europe under the machinery directive. Is the last person that touched that machine owns it, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. That's a whole different discussion. We need another hour to go through that at least if we went there. But the point being is, the machinery directive is very clear about making modifications to something that's beyond the original intent of the design and how it was to be manufactured and used.
Howard, additional comment there?
Well, I don't know how dealers operate their businesses in terms of when equipment comes in through the door, but I would so I'll just leave it at that. It's beyond my level of expertise.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one quick comment. We also too can't ignore what our provincial occupational health and safety regulations are stating as well in regards to maintenance of our equipment, especially for those who are employer agricultural businesses out there. So noting what's happening and what you need to follow under those standards is key as well. And I do see a comment here from Merle in the chat. What I see on modern equipment is the high number of cables and connections needed. For example, video feeds inside drill tanks coming into the cab. If the feed goes down, a farmer's crawling over and across and up and in and trying to find the brake. And she says that's part of what I'm thinking about. And that is the possibility. I'm just going to move to the next question here. We just have a few minutes left, but I'm curious about the owner's manual. And when I say owner's manual, of course, there's going to be several other manuals interjected with that to meet manufacturer specifications, whether it be a repair manual, any of those service manuals that go along with that, that might be separate out of the main operator's manual. So Dion, tell me, what do you feel that the owner's manual, like, is that a necessity that the person who wants to follow the right to repair, is that something they have to have?
I think it's one of the things that every consumer will want to have, regardless of what they're purchasing, and a farmer's is no exception. They want the owner's manual. They need access to all the OEM parts should they want to undertake the repairs. All the warranty information that comes with it. It's not one or the other. It's the whole basket that comes with the piece of equipment that is going to be required for all the information, all of I said on my opening comments, the training and the education that has to go along with these things. As a consumer, I don't read every warranty that of products that I purchase, let alone being a farmer and purchasing a $500,000 or $750,000 piece of equipment. But understanding the terms and the broad terms and conditions of these documents is crucial in order to keep them safe, to operate them safely, and to ensure that the best interests and the specs of these pieces of equipment are adhered to. Nothing that we can do can prevent someone who really wants to do something else with their piece of equipment. And that's, that's not in farming specifically or solely. That's just across the board in consumer products generally. There's always exceptions that will try to make it better, make it faster, make it stronger, make it louder, make it something that's not in the specs of that particular device. So a long answer, Lori. They need everything. They need access to everything. And it's not just the farmer. It's the repair industry, the technicians, the independents that create that market repair ecosystem so that the consumer has options of where to go to suit their needs.
Excellent. Excellent.
I'd like
yes,
to, I'd like to build on the question in the chat too, about, if you have a number of cables and wires, connectors going to sensors and coming back to the main vehicle. A couple of points there. Number one is the designers of most of the major equipment. That's a very important concern is the routing of those wires, where those connectors are, so that, if there is a need to diagnose something or replace something, it's as convenient as possible. It doesn't always happen that way. The other part of it too, and this comes from my technical publications background, we just updated ISO 3600, which is the basics for writing operators manuals. And one of the very first sections in an operator's manual is safety information. And then embedded throughout the content of the operator's manual are specific warnings if there is a particular hazard, if somebody is doing some diagnosis and maintenance and repair, that they have, first of all, they're being warned that there's potential for somebody being harmed if they're engaging in that, and then the proper procedure to avoid getting harmed. So that's part of the writing of the operator's manual. And so you hear a lot of people say, well, I don't read the operator's manual. Well, maybe you want to reconsider that. Thanks.
Thanks, Carl. Final comments, Howard? We're just at time here.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just make an observation. One of the neat things that in terms of the improvement of access to information for farmers who are trying to get their equipment fixed is that they no longer have to go to the dealership to look up in a parts catalog what it is that they may need. I was looking on several websites yesterday of the tractor manufacturers, and all of them offer the parts manuals online, so you can actually, and many of them have a direct link. If you order the part, it'll come up. You can go into the system, look at the part number you need, order the part, and have that part delivered to your local dealer. And that is just an astonishing improvement in terms of the way it used to be. We all know what it used to be, but here the owner operator of the equipment can look at the parts catalog on their mobile phone and get the part ordered for delivery to their dealership.
Excellent. Thank you, Carl, Dion, and Howard, for all of your insight on this topic today. And I really appreciate you making the time to be here and share all of this information and the resources. Robin, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much to all four of you for this really interesting conversation, and all of this information. I know it's really valuable, especially with this new legislation that's come out, and folks being concerned and about what's happening in the industry. So thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate that. I want to thank everyone for attending today and taking the time to learn more about this really important topic. We'll be posting this shortly on CASA's YouTube channel, and we'll be sending out a follow-up email. I know that Howard has sent along some information that we'd like to share with you, as well as other information about upcoming CASA events. We are having a roundtable at the end of the month just to talk about CASA activities and goings-ons. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you there. So you can sign up. We'll have the link in that email, as well as when we follow up with you. And also, we're always looking for folks to join CASA. So I encourage you to take out a membership and come and start participating in this really important topic around agricultural health and safety. So once again, I'd like to just say thank you very much. And I hope you have a wonderful, safe, and successful season. So take care, everyone, and take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thanks so much.